All right, let's talk about a place that's absolutely critical to, well, pretty much everything, but has a name that sounds like it's straight out of a tragedy. Bab al-Mandab, the Gate of Tears. What's that all about? Let's dive in.
Yeah, you heard that right. Bab al-Mandab literally translates from Arabic to the Gate of Lamentation. I mean, you could also call it the Gate of Tears. Talk about a dramatic name for a shipping lane, right? It just makes you wonder.
Exactly. Why would one of the busiest, most important shipping lanes in the entire world have a name that's so sad? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve today. We're going to look at where the name came from and why this place is still so incredibly important right now.
Okay, so first things first, let's get our bearings. Where exactly is this Gate of Tears, and why do we call it a choke point?
So picture a map. The Bab al-Mandab is this super important strait connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Basically, it's the doorway that lets ships travel from the Indian Ocean all the way to the Mediterranean through the Suez Canal. And get this, it literally separates continents. You've got Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula over in Asia on one side, and then Djibouti and Eritrea in the Horn of Africa on the other. It's right in the middle of everything.
And when I say it's a doorway, I mean it's a narrow one. We're talking just 32 kilometers, that's about 20 miles, at its narrowest point. Think about that. All that global trade, all those massive ships have to squeeze through this tiny little gap. It's kind of mind-boggling. And that's the textbook definition of what's called a maritime choke point. It's not just any narrow passage, it's one with huge strategic and commercial value. You know, the kind of place where if something goes wrong, if it gets blocked or becomes unsafe, the ripple effects can be felt across the entire planet. It's a massive vulnerability in the global system. Okay, so we've established it's a critical spot. But that still doesn't explain the name, does it? For that, we've got to jump in the time machine and look at the first tears shed at this gate.
What's really interesting is that historians aren't 100% sure about the name's origin. There are actually two main theories, and well, both of them are pretty grim.
So on one hand, you have the practical explanation. The currents in the strait can be incredibly dangerous, especially for ancient sailing ships. The name Gate of Tears could simply be a warning, a reflection of all the sailors and ships lost to its treacherous waters. Then you have the more legendary version, a story of people drowning as they tried to cross the strait in ancient times. Either way you slice it, the name is basically a monument to tragedy.
But here's the thing, even with all that danger, this place has always been a highway for trade. We're talking thousands of years. It was the main route for spices and incense back in ancient times. Big empires were constantly fighting over it because they knew control the strait, control the trade. And honestly, that hasn't changed one bit.
Which brings us right back to today, because this ancient route isn't just a historical footnote. It's a major artery for the entire world's economy. And when you see why it matters now, it's pretty staggering.
Just look at oil. We're talking about nearly 10% of all the oil that travels by ship. All of it. Squeezing through that one 20-mile wide gap. That's a huge chunk of the world's energy supply relying on safe passage through this one tiny spot. It's an incredible bottleneck.
And it's not just about fuel for our cars. Think about, well, almost everything you own. The clothes you're wearing, the phone in your hand. There's a good chance it traveled on a container ship that passed through the Bab al-Mandab. It's the main route between Asia and Europe. It's for raw materials, military ships. It is, without a doubt, a superhighway for modern life.
So you might think, okay, we have modern ships with GPS now, the old dangers are gone. And you'd be right about that. But the perils haven't vanished. They've just evolved. Today, there are new reasons for tears at the Gate of Lamentation. And these new dangers are entirely man-made. For years, piracy was a major issue in the region. There's always the looming threat of terrorism targeting these high-value ships, and probably the biggest factor right now is regional conflict. I mean, with Yemen right there on the coast, the entire area is a flashpoint for instability.
And that is why this matters to you, no matter where you live. Any problem in the Bab al-Mandab, even a short one, can send oil prices soaring overnight. It can delay shipments for weeks, messing up supply chains around the globe. The security of this one little strait is directly tied to the price you pay at the pump and the availability of goods in your local store. It's all connected.
So it all comes full circle, doesn't it? The Gate of Tears got its name from the ancient sorrows of shipwreck and legend. The tears of the past were about the dangers of nature, but the tears of today, they're about something else entirely. They're about the modern fears of economic collapse, war, and just how fragile our global system really is. The story of the Bab al-Mandab really is the story of our world in miniature, from ancient dangers to modern-day anxieties. It's a stark reminder that our incredibly complex, interconnected global economy balances on a knife's edge, often in a few very narrow, very vulnerable places. Which really leaves you with a big question to chew on. When we're this dependent on these fragile passages, what's the true price we pay for being so connected?